minute can open your eyes. One book can open your world. Knowledge gives you power. Read and rise higher. 9R Tree. Better life begins in a book.
Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to 9R Tree's podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. On Tyranny distills history into 20 concise lessons for citizens who want to resist the drift toward authoritarian rule. Historian Timothy Snyder, an expert on 20th century Europe, draws sharp parallels between the collapse of democratic norms in the past and the vulnerabilities of the present. Rather than offering abstract theory, he frames each lesson as a practical habit of mind and action, from defending institutions and the rule of law to taking responsibility for the truth in public life. The book is brief, direct, and unsettling, designed as a pocket field guide that readers can carry into daily life. Snyder shows how authoritarianism rarely arrives all at once. It advances through small concessions, normalized lies, and the erosion of professional ethics. By grounding civic courage in real examples and achievable steps, On Tyranny equips readers with a clear, usable framework for protecting freedom before it is too late. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, the fragility of democracy and the duty to defend institutions. At the heart of Snyder's argument is a sober reminder that democratic systems are not self-sustaining. Institutions hold only as long as citizens and officials actively defend them. The 20th century offers many examples where courts, parliaments, and civil services were captured or sidelined by leaders who promised order or national revival. Snyder translates that history into concrete advice. Support independent courts, press legislators for oversight, and refuse to treat emergency measures as normal. Beware the one-party state, he warns, because monopolized power closes off peaceful change and invites repression. Elections, district rules, and bureaucratic norms may seem technical, but they are the hinges on which liberty turns. He urges readers to volunteer for local boards, learn how their city and state actually work, and intervene early when procedures are bent for partisan gain. When officials overreach, citizens must show up, document abuses, and use lawful channels to challenge them. If professionals and ordinary people keep faith with the rule of law before a crisis hardens, democratic guardrails can hold. If they wait, opportunists will fill the vacuum. Secondly, truth, language, and the fight against propaganda. Snyder insists that freedom depends on a shared commitment to truth. Authoritarian movements thrive on slogans, conspiracy, and the deliberate blurring of fact and fiction. The 20th century shows how regimes flooded the public sphere with falsehoods until citizens gave up on knowable reality. Snyder's practical response is to rebuild personal information discipline. Seek out investigative journalism and pay for it. Read books that take time to compose and verify, since long-form argument resists the speed of manipulation. Learn to slow down and examine the language that leaders use. When officials attack reporters, label opponents as enemies, or reduce complex problems to simple, energizing myths, they are testing public tolerance for unreality. He urges readers to verify sources, archive important documents, and keep private data secure so that intimidation cannot silence dissent. Truth is not a luxury in this framework. It is a civic infrastructure. By defending factuality in conversations at home, at work, and online, individuals help keep political debate tethered to evidence. That tether frustrates attempts to normalize corruption and cruelty behind a haze of spectacle. Thirdly, everyday courage and corporeal politics. History shows that small acts of courage accumulate. Snyder's lessons encourage readers to practice corporeal politics, which means getting out from behind screens and showing up with your body and your name. Authoritarian actors count on public passivity, on the assumption that people will adapt to each new indignity. The antidote is to stand out when a line is crossed. Speak up at meetings, attend town halls, join peaceful demonstrations, and support neighbors who are targeted. Make eye contact and small talk with strangers, because social trust reduces the isolation on which intimidation relies. Learn from local organizations how to de-escalate tension and document events safely. Courage is contagious in both directions. Timidity spreads, but so does resolve. The point is not hero worship, but the cultivation of habits that keep fear from setting the rules. When citizens demonstrate visible solidarity, officials reconsider reckless orders, and bystanders reevaluate their assumptions. Snyder's approach treats bravery as a practice that starts before the crisis and grows through repetition, mentorship, and community. In this view, liberty lives in the muscle memory of ordinary people who choose to act in public. Fourthly, professional ethics as a bulwark. Many of the worst collapses in the last century occurred when professionals abandoned their codes. Snyder highlights how lawyers, judges, civil servants, police, soldiers, physicians, and business leaders either resisted or enabled authoritarian projects. He asks readers to clarify now which orders they will refuse and which duties they will defend. For those in uniform, that means loyalty to the Constitution and to lawful command, not to a person. For those in medicine or education, it means protecting vulnerable people and the integrity of records. For those in technology and media, it means designing against abuse and guarding user privacy. He warns about paramilitaries and privatized force, which often appear as protectors before becoming enforcers. The lesson is simple but demanding. Put ethics in writing, talk about it with peers, document pressure, and create networks that can support refusal. History rewards professionals who kept lines bright and punishes those who rationalized exceptions. By treating expertise as a public trust, professionals can slow or prevent the slide from legality to mere power, buying time for democratic remedies to work. Lastly, learning from 20th century Europe, Snyder writes as a historian of Europe between the wars and under totalitarian rule, and he uses that archive to help readers recognize patterns early. Democracies did not fall overnight. They were hollowed out by states of emergency, by cults of the leader, by the normalization of political violence, and by the slow targeting of minorities. The book turns episodes from Nazi Germany, Soviet domination, and other cases into practical anticipations. Keep a passport up to date and some cash at hand in case of sudden disruptions. Establish a private life that cannot be coerced by surveillance. Notice when language medicalizes cruelty, or when neighbors are singled out for humiliation. Beware the temptation of fatalism that tells you that nothing you do matters. Resist panicked reactions to terror incidents that are used to justify permanent expansions of power. In short, use history as a map of recurring traps and exits. This is not fear-mongering, it is preparedness. When citizens learn to read these signals, they resist sleepwalking into crisis and preserve the space where reform and solidarity remain possible. In conclusion, this book is for citizens, students, educators, journalists, public servants, business leaders, and anyone who senses that democratic habits are under strain and wants a clear guide to action. Its power lies in brevity and precision. In under 2 hours, you gain a tested checklist that you can start applying the same day, alone, or with a community. Snyder blends scholarly authority with plain-spoken steps, so the advice travels well across professions and political identities. If you want motivation, it provides urgency. If you want method, it supplies concrete moves, from supporting local institutions to safeguarding truth and privacy. Compared with broader histories or abstract political theory, On Tyranny offers a compact field manual anchored in hard lessons from the last century. It will sharpen your judgment, expand your circle of concern, and lower the threshold for brave, lawful action. Buy this book if you want a practical, non-partisan toolkit for protecting freedom where you live, before events force choices under worse conditions. If you would like to support Timothy Snyder, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.
1 minute can open your eyes. 1 book can open your world. Knowledge gives you power, read and rise higher. 9 or tree, better life.